Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good evening, everyone. We continue with the section on the ripening of kammas, in the section of the process freed, page number 205, by time of ripening. With respect to the time of taking effect, there are four kinds of kamma, namely ditta dhamma vedaniya kamma, upapajja vedaniya kamma, Aparaparya Vedaniya Kamma and Ahosi Kamma, which is defunct Kamma. Dittadhamma Vedaniya Kamma is Kamma, if it is to ripen, must yield its result in the same existence in which it is performed. Otherwise, if it does not meet the opportunity to ripen in the same existence, it becomes defunct, Ahosi. According to the Abhidhamma, of the seven javanas in a javana process, the first javana movement, being the weakest of all, generates immediately effective kam. Generates immediately effective kam. Subsequently effective upapajja vedaniya kamma is kamma which, if it is to ripen, must yield its results in the existence immediately following that in which it is performed. Otherwise, it becomes defunct. This type of kamma is generated by the last javana movement in the javana process, which is the second weakest in the series. Which is the second weakest in the series. Now, because of the condition relating to the fact of continuity of process, the first one is weak. Then, පළවෙනි එකට, before the first Javana Chitta, there are no other Javana Chittas. Hence, the first one is weak, the fact that Asevana Pratyaya is not fulfilled. The second Javana to the sixth Javana. The second Javana to the sixth Javana is strong owing to the condition of Asevana Pratyaya. The fact that there is continuity. There is the repeated taking of object by this particular type of mind which generates power, Asevana Pratyaya. Now, the last consciousness, which is the last Javana, the seventh Javana, although Asevana Pratyaya is there, isn't it? Before it, there are six javanas before it. So Asevana Pratyaya is fulfilled. So if we look only on the grounds of Asevana Pratyaya, then it does not make sense. However, there is a Pratyaya here which is not Asevana Pratyaya, but here the fact that it comes to cease. The fact that it comes to cease. Now here, following this consciousness, it comes to cease. Because it comes to cease, that power there is the cessation moment of that jhana. Hence it is weak and becomes the second part there, or the second consciousness that is the weakest out of the seven jhanas. Indefinitely effective aparaparya vedaniya kamma is which ripen at any time from the second future existence, not the next one, but the one after that. from the second future existence onwards, whenever it gains an opportunity to produce results. This karma generated by the five intermediate Javana moments of a cognitive process never becomes defunct so long as a round of rebirth continues. No one, not even a Buddha or a Arahat, is exempt from experiencing the results of indefinitely effective karma. Hmm. When we were studying Javana processes earlier, and where we used the English word impingement to relate to what the Javana function is and what the Javana function does with an object. This Javana function is is a particular section of a cognitive process where the mind and the object, or based upon this mind, one creates further energy, sankharas, which then proliferate our existence in terms of adding more conditions, adding more conditions hmm, into our sort of journey forward. Now, these commas and those resultants, as we have discussed earlier, what we experience as ahetuka chittas is effectively resultant karma, is effectively resultant karma. Now, while certain things might be obvious in terms of kamma phala nyaya might be obvious, we might imagine, okay, one is to say or do a good deed towards another person as a result of that good deed. One receives some sort of good effect of it. Now, in our eyes, okay, I did a good deed and I got this result out of it. It might be quite simple, isn't it? In the way that we view it. And this might very well be the case. This might very well be the case. And this could then be a very easy example to then ditta dhamma vedaniya kamma, or here this immediately effective kamma. However, it might also not be the case, meaning whilst it might be obvious in terms of, okay, I did this, hence I got this result back, this result in the way that you received it back, or that you're experiencing now, can be a result of a energy that comes from way prior to this as well. How can we surely know? We can't. That is the complexity of Kamma Phala Nyaya, because to be absolutely sure into a level where you are able to discern the exact root of that causality is impossible. That is where the Buddha says it is achintaniya. Then what is possible? Because in the Vipassana, we do observe causality, we do observe Hetupala, the cause and effect of things. So then what is possible without it becoming achintaniya? Hmm? Now, what did the Buddha relate to as achintaniya? It is the complex network of kammas. Hmm. Now, this complex network of karmas, one has to understand. To understand what the Buddha related to by this, one has to understand how one meditates upon this seeing of cause and effect. The seeing of cause and effect is meditated upon, or vipassana arises within a yogi who contemplates upon, who is one able to see a particular mind or phenomena, and is then with volition adverts to the cause of that, particular mind or phenomena. Hmm. For example, let us say we first start now. This does not arise to, maybe when we heard it earlier. I mean, I'm talking about myself. When you don't understand cause and effect and how it really comes about, and when you just look at it from, let us say, you use the term patija samuppada, right? And then not truly understanding it, we sometimes think, oh, this is sort of higher knowledge. Yes, it is absolutely higher knowledge, but it is also knowledge that you build the conditions on your own, like you're stitching something or weaving a certain material, fabric. In the same way, we create the conditions that allows us to see cause and effect. For example, we first start identifying cause and effect through mind and body reactions, isn't it? When we tell the mind to calm down, or we let go of the sense impingement, divert our attention away from the external world into the internal, by cause of or caused by the volition to do so, what happens? Everything, all the turbulence of the mind slowly comes to dwindle away. You see the cause and effect as the mind as a cause when the volition changed. Now the suffering caused by that volition also changes, shifts. In these ways, through the anapana, through moments in our practice, we see the cause and effect. We might not sort of relate to it as cause and effect, but you understand to a certain extent, because of this, this happened. Huh? Because I took on the sensation too much, because I took on the sensation too much, the sensation increased. Because I didn't cling on to the sensation, because I let it go, the sensation went away, the pain went away. These are all causes and effect if it relates to one. Building upon that cause and effect, we realize in the Kammapala Niyaya, all of these kammas that are mentioned by in this doctrine by the Buddha are all it's the same energy with varying powers. It's the same influx with varying powers. If it is a kusala, the varying power of kusala and the ability of it to give rise within a particular period of time, whether it be within this body as a dittadhamma vedaniya kamma, a kamma that gives rise within this very life or in the next. However, this becomes achintaniya. Now, hetupala we can see. We can go back how many lifetimes? Do you remember how many lifetimes a person is able to go back with karma analysis in discernment? Matakada. How many lifetimes? How does one figure out the answer for this? Hitanda? It's a trick question. You have to think out of the box. How many lifetimes can you go back in seeing, or let us say, how far back can you go to see Hetupal? Mm,
There
yeah.
is no limit,
Ah,
but
there is no limit to an omniscient, to a Buddha.
yeah,
That
mm,
is why all except the Buddha is unchintaniya, unthinkable, meaning the network. But in terms of our conditioning, meaning mundane or not mundane, but here it is called, we would come under the class of Pakatapukkala, hmm? Mahapurusha. So the Buddha was a class of Mahapurushas. Sorry about that. May the Buddha was in a category of Mahapurushas. Mahapurushas are, it was not, this is not, this is not, this is not some masculine, toxic masculine thing. Mahapurushas in this extent is the body. And because of the mental capabilities of the being of the time. So we know that the physical capabilities of the Buddha, the body of the Buddha, was far bigger than normal human beings, right? Now we would fall under then Pagatapukkala. If you would take Pagatapukkala, our faculties are then less or weaker in comparison to a Mahapurusha. Hmm? In comparison to a Mahapurusha. Here, Pakatapuggala, as it is said, with our capacity and capability, we would be able to go back up to 10 lifetimes worth of seeing para, Hetupala into the past. That is why everyone in both Mahasi and Pauk but more pronounced by Pauk it goes into the teachings of seeing past lives in order to see that when we, of course, as we've always talked about, I think this life, this moment is important. However, However, when we see that in every life, at every position, at every issue or every good that we experience at that moment through many lifetimes, through many moments within these lifetimes, we feel the same way. Mhm. ඒ කියන්නේ within this birth we hang on to our children thinking that this is my ride or die or my life in the previous birth in the same way but to an entirely different group of children. In the other life in the same way but to an entirely, and in that life to the children that attachment is there, to the outsiders that attachment is not there. Now, when you're observing this and you experience in this life the attachment that I had, in the previous life the attachment that I had, the life before the attachment that I had, going backwards, one realizes the anatma nature of it all, meaning that this is a farce. Because of the physical illusions, we cling at that moment, thinking of me, myself, and I. For that process to be pronounced towards anattanupassana, Paoxyado teaches the way of seeing that by the simple process of paticca past, present, past causal, present continuous. Past causal, present continuous, present causal, future continuous. Remember? Uh, Past causal avijja, present continuous, nama rupa, skandha, nama rupa, salayatana, all of that come into the future. And then present causal, presently we contribute, develop kamma, sankhara, because of this present causal, future continuous. In the future arises, soka parideva dukkha domanasu payas, isn't it? All of this, then all of these commas that we are now experiencing, it seems a little bit, let us say, it seems a little bit pseudoscientific. Pseudoscientific, hold on, if we take, find another pseudoscientific, if we take the core to be one lifetime. Meaning, if the Atma is centered upon one particular lifetime, that is the belief that, okay, I am Bante, Bante is my life, the self concept, then it doesn't make a lot of sense. But when we take one life to another in consciousness stream, then you realize that it is the same energy that is affecting, that is continuously affecting the mind, the anusaya, the kamma. The mind, the anusaya, the kamma. Hmm? So, without any bias to whichever being, even if it is a Buddha, even if it is a Arahat, without no bias whatsoever, this energy is almost impregnated into your samsaric vibration for as long as it has the efficacy to vibrate, as long as it is within this consciousness stream. I listened to this very interesting program on neuroscience and what they're talking about in terms of, you know, consciousness, because there is so much of, because people are using DNA to save data. So think of replacing a USB drive with a piece of brain matter. So this USB drive, which would have to be so many terabytes, 100 times more within this piece of brain matter. So all of these conversation around, okay, what is the energy, or what is your sphere of experience? right? Now, what is now in Western, we see a lot of this limitless potential, tapping into universal energy, that kind of conversation going. But in listening to those conversations, and this is nothing to do with pseudoscience, it is all, energy is quantum physics. And when they think about, when you start to think, now, for example, you ask a question. hmm, Let us say the question is as simple as, what is the reading of my energy meter? Example. Now, when you open that thought, what is the reading of my energy meter? Something so random. The moment that you open that question up, or the moment that vitarka arises in your mind, you create a realm of possibility. A realm of possibility, a realm of information that you are able to tap into. Right? In the same way, let us think. Now, I ask you a question, I put a question onto the group and say, I'm asking you a novel question, a question you've never heard before. Now, it does not mean that within your realm of whatever that is in your head, your thinking capacity, that you are unable to find the answer because you've not heard it before. But because the mind has not opened to that pattern of thought, it has not yet been discovered. Now, we hear the conversation on when this potential is reached, meaning when you have a thought that arises, the limitless potential of man, that we download consciousness. Download consciousness. They use this term, they say it's like downloading consciousness, right? For me, I see the other way around entirely, right? The other way around entirely, where a condition is being created. A condition is being created. When that the condition itself being just like in the moment of passa, the mind and the body element both vibrates at the same time. If the meditator only sees, let us say, the connection between the object and the body, good, but not complete. If the meditator only sees the relation between the object and the mind, good, but not complete. It only becomes complete when the meditator sees that as the object arises, the arising of the object needs both mind and body, and this coming together happens at the same time. Hence, it is called the moment of passa. Now, when this moment of passa arises, what opens to you is a realm of experience. Hmm? That realm of experience, whatever that might be sight, that might be smell, taste, whatever sensory, auditory impingement that arises, that is your realm of experience. That condition now, dependent upon that condition, supported by other conditions that come into the mix, the realm of possibility that is open to you changes and shifts moment to moment. In the Vipassana, this realm of experience is shifted entirely. Meaning, through the six sense bases, we develop an ability to see beyond the six sense bases into what is not seen by mundane experience. Because we are shackled to the mundane experience because of view. Hmm? When we see or get rid of, it's difficult to get rid of that view, but it is almost as if like a plane that is going over a range of mountains. And usually when it goes, if you're climbing a mountain, if you've gone over the Alps, you see they find a moment and slowly they pull up, and sometimes they go down, they can't go over. Just so ඒකත් නිකන් අර එළිය දකින්නව නෑ එළිය දකින්නව නෑ එළිය දකින්නව නෑ, that it says it is the prajna chaitasika itself. Now this karma phala nyaya that we are talking about, an experience, now we call it kamma, and kamma is a very popular word. Kamma is a word that is not only relative to Buddhists but so many different other cultures and beliefs of people. It has even become a Western thing in a certain way. Right. When you look at this Kamma is again, we, through the Buddha's knowledge, we've broken this up. But really, this is the force that you put into your moment and the force that you do not. If it is akusala, strong akusala, if it is weak akusala, if it is strong kusala or weak kusala, wholesome and unwholesome. And this, owing to whatever conditions that are of the present, of that time, certain mentalities, even for example, let us say, because of a certain karma, karmic resultant, whilst you have been a very strong practitioner, this karmic resultant hits you in a way where, when at, or at the time of a certain disadvantage or a hurdle or encumbrance, the mind doesn't go to Dhamma. How does this happen? Because it's in the mind, isn't it? It's the Dhamma mind. But let us say, because of the way that we, when you're intelligent and when when you know your way around things, right? You think and you know how to hit the nail where it should be hit, isn't it? You're good at planning. Uh, Asians very good at planning because that is our upbringing. We are sort of taught to see, plan, and see that end of the light at the end of the tunnel. Now, with this, when we do commerce or when we do plan and instigate things, now the karma reflects on the mind through, let us say, what conditions come in front of us. The worst conditions that could pull our worst strings arises in a certain way, even through strangers, but now affecting the mind. Now affecting the mind. That causal condition, meaning that person existing there and standing there and saying whatever it is, whether it is good or bad, as a karmic resultant, that condition was not just a karma flying like Casper into your scenario and throwing something at you from a unseen sort of level. No, that person being there at that time itself was the karma. That person being there at that time saying, let us say it was a good thing or a bad thing, saying whatever that they said to pull your string, that itself was the karma, meaning that whole incident is the karma because that is the condition that led to that resultant. Now, karma can physically affect, isn't it? Karma can physically affect. How can karma physically affect? Altering the Utuja Rupa. Kamma physically comes to rise, altering the altering
Um,
hold on, or altering the Utuja Rupa through altering the Utuja Rupa through the Kammaja. Through the Kammaja. Initially, the Kammaja Rupa arises because of this Kammaja Rupa, the Utuja Rupa gets influenced. Now, what does that mean? For example, because of a certain because of a certain karma in your past, let us say you have to experience a particular, let us say, a rash. Hmm. A rash. Now we know with physical, what we have learned with the kalapas, with physicality, there are so many kalapas here. How can one karma affect so many kalapas? Do you get my point? If one Kammajarupa, if one Kammajarupa is one Kalapa, then how can so many, one Kamma affect such a large area, let us say, in terms of Kamma, Kammajarupa, and Rupa, because of the effect it has on the Utuja. The Kammajarupa affects the Utuja, when the temperature goes off, this is the Tejo Dhatu. Mm. With the elements then going off, whatever resultants appear upon the Utuja, all down to Then Kamma Nyaya here. This Kamma Nyaya we understand to be now if there is a consciousness that vibrates, arises and ceases. Oh, this consciousness arises and ceases because of craving. Because we have three types of craving: Kama Tanha, Bhava Tanha, Vibhava Tanha. Craving for sensual pleasures, craving for becoming. I want to be born in this heaven, that heaven, all of these places. I want to be born. And then Vibhava Tanha, which is the craving that we have for non-becoming. How do we explain that? The craving for non-becoming, Vibhava Tanha.
Not wanting something like uh, um, it's like, say, you don't want your son to be a engineer. You want your son to be a doctor. So
Uh-huh.
that desire for not wanting something is
Mm-hmm.
viva. Like, I don't want him to be a doctor.
Uh-huh.
So that wanting, that is a wanting. Not wanting becomes a wanting. That is vibhavatana. Or if you take the sansara, when you take the sansara bit, like not wanting to be born again.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
So,
addictive, like
yeah,
addictive
it's
something.
vibhava tanha.
Okay.
Yeah. When you take the sansara, if you take the moment to moment arising, moment to moment we get bhavatanha and vibhavatanha.
Mm-hmm.
We don't realize it because bhavatanha is all what we are thinking of, that we want this, we want this, we want that.
Mm-hmm.
But along parallel to that, there is something like we don't want that. We don't
Okay.
want.
Yes, yes. So this we don't want that. The distancing of from certain experiences.
Yeah.
Now, for example, even let us say then apita we don't want to go to hell, do we?
No, no.
Yeah. Vibhavatanha.
Uh, we don't want to go to hell. Uh, the only way that sentence can be said in a class like this, we don't want to go to hell, right? We don't want to come into certain positions. We don't want to be born in certain places. We don't want to be in certain situations with all of those things. Whatever it might not be hell in specific, but it might be another circumstance or a Vedana or a position that you do not won't fall into. Vibhavatanha. Vibhavatanha. These three, because of craving, because of this is proliferated forward. With that proliferation forward, we have two other conditions. Anusaya, consciousness is proliferated forward because of craving. Three types of craving: Kama tanha, Bhava tanha, Vibhava tanha, which we have just discussed. Because of that Kama Tanha, Bhava Tanha, Vibhava Tanha, we develop karmas. Karmas meaning there must be a way that this is lengthened forward. So we lengthen it through conditions. Those conditions that can give result in this birth is known as Ditta Dhamma Vedaniya. In the next birth is known as Aparaparya Vedaniya. එහෙම නේද? අපරාපරය නේද?
Upapajja.
උපපත්ත
Upapajja.
වේදනීය indefinitely up until we attain Nibbana, those effects, those strong karmas, conditions are called Aparaparya Vedaniya karma, and those karmas that become defunct because they have now lapsed the time that they can give rise become Ahosi karmas. Become Ahosi karma. Okay. Now, for example, let us say in our belief of our culture, let us say, they say that when you have a very, very bad time, and if you become a monk during this bad time, you will forego the bad time. මාර කපල නේම තියෙනවා නන් නේද? කියන්න දන්නවනේ කට්ටිය. එහෙම නේද? එපා එපා. ඒ වගේ අපල නේම තියෙනවා නම් කියනවා to become a monk. Actually, not only in Buddhist culture, but Chinese, in the Burmese culture, Thai cultures, they all believe in the same. They do believe in the same, right? Not only our Sri Lankan culture, Indian cultures, and with the sadhus, Hindus. them as well because of the strong influence of the stars. Now, the Buddha too actually has spoken about this. The Buddha too has said the same, that when you do put on the robes and you do go forth, that these resultants do not affect you. And that is because your conditions change. Uh, your conditions change. Now, let us say you have a kamma where Amma is going to be hitting you, right? Now, when you get ordained, right? When you get ordained, and when you're in a certain position, that is not going to happen. Now you see, the condition changed. Hmm? Now, there are strong kammas where now it's not only Amma, but wherever you're going to go, you're going to get hit. Right? It's stronger. It's not only constricted to one particular person, it's stronger. Right? Now, those type of commas, let us say this particular monk, he goes into an isolated place where there's no one. Change of circumstance. But then there are type of commas that are stronger. Even if you isolate yourself in the high mountains, someone is going to come and hit you. Like what happened to Venerable Mahamoggallana, remember? Right? Where the karma was so strong, where he was using his ability to disappear and reappear in different locations, but it still gave effects. Right? So only do karmas that you're ready to bear the circumstances of. Only do karmas that you're ready to bear the circumstances of. Do not think that it is just a waste you do and forget, but it is something that nurtures your life force and stream forward, isn't it? Right? When you do good come with the sense of letting go, then people will do good onto you with letting go. Now we have, isn't it? You might experience, okay, I have a lot of blessings. I have people taking care of me, but look around, everyone is telling you what to do, right? Which means that you have done in the same manner. You receive love, but everyone is telling you what to do. You receive love only when you do as you're said, as you're told. You see the way Kammas, the Buddha, beautifully in the Mahalakkhana Sutra and the Mahapadana Sutra says, look at these Kammas, and the Buddha says, for one who is aiming high, meaning arahathood, slowly, slowly untangle yourself in your life, seeing the Kammas that are in front of you. Mhm. In front of you. And down to the meditation, these are all meva karma නෙමෙයි උතකොට. These are not karmas then. These are conditions, causal conditions. Uh, Cause and effect. That effect we know as vipaka. The cause is the kamma, the action that we perform it by. Hmm? Now, by place of ripening, do we have any questions? Those
But
come, yeah.
sorry, but the what you were saying about the consciousness before,
Mm-hmm.
would the wisdom has a direct effect on the karma when the wisdom goes up, the karma,
Right.
action of karma, volition of it, and the resultant
Mm-hmm.
changes, like comes down. When the wisdom goes down, the other part goes up.
Mm.
Like I thought like that because when you were saying about at the contact point, when the three come together and then you grasp it and the karma occurs,
Mm.
wisdom plays there. If the wisdom Chaitasika acts there,
Okay.
karma will not occur to that depth or weaken. Even when the bad karma resultant come,
Mm.
if wisdom hits there,
Mm.
then the suffering will get less.
Yes.
So I was just thinking at that time, in both ways, karma and karma vipaka, when both get active, this one particular wisdom chaitasika can have a direct influence on it to make it less or more. What
In
do you
terms
think?
of the dukkha experienced,
In terms of suffering and
in terms of
lengthening
suffering.
and lengthening of samsara and producing more sankhara, the
Sankhara.
whole
Sankhara.
thing.
Because now
Mm.
when you talk about prajna as a chaitasika,
Hmm.
and prajna as a chaitasika, we know is the same that is used to render any other, the Dhamma Vichaya, the Sabbonjangas, in all of those aspects, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. So when you would take the five skandha and relate to the prajna faculty of prajna, this prajna faculty, let's take a look here, right? Wisdom. Now, when wisdom arises, there is, it is, if we would take it as a light, as a flashlight, or a lamp, depending upon how strong the flare is, would determine how much of the room you will see or you cannot see. Now, when you can't see the room all that much, you can trip and fall on something, isn't it? You may not be able to find what you're looking for. However, there might be that amount of wisdom, right? A little bit of light or a great amount of light. There, when wisdom arises, it is a condition. In its own, wisdom is a condition. Because of that condition, it is almost as if, there are these fences that will actually keep people out, and then there are these fences which are like just for decoration. One kick to the fence and it's down, and it's on the floor. Huh? It's like that. As a condition, can it be a strong condition, a strong, compelling force to keep thieves and robbers out? Or which would be the hindrances, the kileshas in the very next moment, or is it not? That is where in the Satipatthana Bhavana, the Buddha teaches us the way of balancing the wisdom. It is almost as if a mountaineer using these little hooks and things to scale up the side of a mountain little by little, balancing side to side, and maneuvering himself upwards. The indriyas are quite much, very much similar, where we first may use Shraddha and balance Prajna with Shraddha, right? Where we might have, for example, effort, and we might balance that effort of with wisdom, sati. All of these components allowing the meditator to go forward, go upward. Hmm? Panya is wisdom, understanding or knowing the Dhamma's ultimate realities as they really are. Now, this Prajna Chaitasika doesn't doesn't necessarily apply, or when it is to a person who is unrelated to the path, this type of wisdom does not apply. This type of wisdom does not, which sounds very not very inclusive, right? But it should be understood to think the condition, meaning the Dhamma teaches anicca, dukkha, anatma, asubha. It is through these perceptions that one is able to see things as they really are. Then the reason for the non-arising of wisdom is because of the lack of the four types of perception, which does not lead to proliferation, isn't it? The four ayoniso sanyas, the wrong attention sanyas, which is nitya, subha,
Subha Sukha Atta.
Subha Sukha Atta,
Nitya.
Subha Sukha, Nitya Sukha,
Subha Sukha Atta.
Nitya Subha, Nitya Sukha Atta,
Subha
Busuk.
Nitya
Yeah.
Subha Sukha Atta.
what she said. Now, right, which is to say, Nitya is permanent, Subha is good, Atha is self, my, me, and the other is Subha is
So,
beautiful.
yeah.
Sukha. Sukha is happy, beautiful. Now, when these objects, when these perceptions arise, then the Kamma that follows this person is also strong. Because there is when Nitya Subha Sukha Atma arises as a perception, that is the foundation block for Sankara. That is when an energy can arise, how can I say, linked to you, linked to you. Now, if you would take instances where other people's unwholesome energy is linked to you, uh,
Mm.
like like uh, like when people, when beings link themselves to you, in samsara, your energy. In the same way, we can link things to ourselves as well, right? In the same way, we can link things to ourselves. Again, building up on the same karma. So these karma and results can exist at mind and body. These karmas can give result from this very moment up until the moment that you attain Nibbana. These very karmas, even at this very moment, my ability to talk to you, see you, hear you, feel sensations, my operations and your operations of the six sense spaces wholly happen because of these energies that allow these static functions to take place. Mm. Static functions take place. Actually, when we talk, when we think, let's not go there. Let's not go there. Now, coming back, right? Now, unwholesome and wholesome karma. Of them, now of all of those commas, sorry, place of ripening. With respect to the place in which the effect takes place, there are four kinds of karma, namely unwholesome karma, wholesome karma pertaining to the sense sphere, wholesome karma pertaining to the fine material sphere, and wholesome karma pertaining to the immaterial sphere. Now, unwholesome and wholesome karma. Of them, unwholesome karma is threefold according to the doors of action, namely bodily action, verbal action, and mental action. Kaya karma, vachi karma, mano karma. Now, katang, how killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, and bodily action generally occurring through the door of the body, known as bodily intimation. That is bodily karma. Musawada, Pisunavacha, Parusavacha, false speech, slandering, harsh speech, and frivolous talk are verbal action, generally occurring through the door of speech known as vocal intimation. Hmm. Avidya, Vyapada, Michaditthicha, covetousness, ill will, and wrong view are mental actions, generally occurring only in the mind without bodily or vocal intimation. Hmm. Any questions, anyone? I feel like no questions. May quite straightforward, but if anyone has any questions, um, when we meditate, we realize that all of these karmas, bodily, verbal, and mental, are also part of the hetu phala, cause and effect. Right, that there is that everything has a cause, that everything has an effect, everything is a condition onto itself and is supported by other conditions, and this one condition goes off to support other conditions to arise as well. Now, guide to verse 22. The above passage enumerates the 10 unwholesome causes of action, akusala kamapatha. As shown, 3 are bodily, 4 are verbal, and 3 are purely mental. The first 7 causes are identified with the volition initiating an effort to accomplish the respective action. This first 7 causes are identified with the volition initiating an effort to accomplish the respective action. That is how we have physical, and vocal intimation happening, isn't it? It is because of volition. Chetana hambikave kamma vadami. There are two types of kamma, kaya kamma, vachi kamma. Hmm? And then, of course, we have mano kamma, which is where the initial thought arises, the volition. Such volition is an unwholesome karma regardless of whether or not it completes the action. Hmm? Meaning, it's talking about the first seven courses. What are the first seven? These parts here, isn't it? These first parts here. First course of action, which is stealing, killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, false speech, slandering, harsh speech, and frivolous talk are verbal. Hmm? The first seven courses of action are identified with the volition initiating an effort to accomplish the respective action. Such volition is an unwholesome karma regardless of whether or not it completes the action. But if it does not reach completion of the action and achieves its aim, then it becomes a full course of action. The characteristic of a full course of action is being a karma with a potency to take on the rebirth generating role. Now, that is the definition of um, Kammapata. Kammapata, that's the definition of Kammapata for you, everyone. If you want to make a note of that. That is when the full course of action, a characteristic, is being a karma with a potency to take on a rebirth generating role. That is where it is able to pronounce the rebirth forward. Generally occurring through the door of the body, kaya dwara, in relation to action, the doors, dwara, are media. We know the six doors, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and the mind, are the media through which karma is performed. The door of the body is bodily intimation, kaya vinyati. Hmm? A type of karma produce a type of mind produced material phenomena by which a person expresses. Though the medium through the medium of the body, a volition arises in the mind. The expression generally occurring is used because such actions such as killing and stealing can also be done by speech, by command. Yet, even in such cases, these actions are still considered bodily karma. Hmm? Although the karma patha is not fulfilled. Although the karma patha is not fulfilled. Any questions on that, anyone? Hmm?
Difficult thing
What
it
is
is.
Kammapada? Sorry.
Oh, karma patha is when an action, when it is done, it can be done together with volition, then planning, and then carrying out the operation, whatever it might be, right?
Is it
So it is,
premeditated?
sorry,
Premeditated?
premeditated, yes. Hmm? Premeditated. With this volition, anytime a volition arises, so premeditated in terms of a legal perspective might be a little bit different. But in the Buddhist perspective of karma, premeditation we take from the moment that the volition arises. That is a thought to do. The thought to do. From the moment of that thought to do with the planning and then the subsequent execution is what then comprises of it being a karma patha, where it is karma patha, the complete karma, isn't it? What was the word that they were talking about? They use the word as characteristic, a full course of action, the completion of the karma patha. The completion of the karma patha. Now, when that karma patha is not completed, it is akin to the person not having fully experienced the akusala, let us say, right? Now, uh, in the case of giving command to kill, for example, giving command to kill, if this person in intention is, of course, not trying to cause harm to life, it is not fulfilled. Hmm? But when the person has volition, has intention to cause harm to life, and then maybe this is a very normal thing for this person, right? Like a military, a militant, a part of a, person that is normal for them. But still, in giving that order and knowing its completion, that entails a karma. That entails a completion of the karma. Not in terms of, remember, not in terms of any other person's metrics, but wholly down to one's own intention of completion. Now,
Although he doesn't do it himself, the body reaction is not there.
yes, yes,
Mm.
although the bodily reaction is not there. Now, although the bodily reaction is not there. Now, even in the case of the order being given, the order being given, and let us say the act was not carried out,
Mm.
right? The act was not carried out, but the order was given. Still, it entails a karma. Still, it entails a karma,
Yeah.
right? But still, it entails a karma. Now, that karma patha being completed, this person has a sense of solidity in the mind in terms of what has transpired. In what has transpired,
Mm.
in giving the order, in coming to know of the result in certain circumstances, simply at that role. Hmm? Now, there can be, of course, circumstances where the karma patha might not be fulfilled as well, although one thinks it is fulfilled. Now, to give you the answer to that, I will have to refresh myself with the Vinaya Pitaka on this particular section, because the Buddha has given a very particular breakdown of when and what causes the karma patha to be fulfilled in certain circumstances. Hmm? I will share that piece of Dhamma with you from the Vinaya Pitaka later on. Hmm? May, for now, let us move on. Do we have any other questions? Hmm? Okay. The door of speech, Vachidvara, similarly denotes vocal intimation, Vachi Vinyati. The mind originated material phenomena by means of which volition is expressed verbally. Though such actions, such as false speech, etc., may also be done bodily by writing or by hand signals, because their main medium of execution is the door of speech, meaning the mutability, communication.
Mm.
Communication. පාවිච්චි කර උපායක් නැති වුණාද? Uh, because of communication, the intention to communicate. That is it. The intention to communicate. They are still considered verbal karma. Covetousness. The last three courses of action generally occur only in the mind without reaching intentional expression through body or speech. Such action is said to occur through the mind door, which here is a collective designation for consciousness in its entirety. Mhm. The last three courses of action generally occur only in the mind without reaching intentional expression through body. Hmm? Why do you think? Hmm? Why do you think that is the mind only, not through? Hmm? Covetousness is a mental factor of greed arisen as the wish to acquire another person's property. Even though greed arises for another's property, it does not become a full course of action unless one gives rise to the wish to take possession of that property. Mm. Very interesting shift in the volition it's talking about, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's talking about a shift in the volition. That is, although one might have the mental factor, covetousness, abhijja is a mental factor of greed, arisen as the wish to acquire another person's property. Even though greed arises for another's property, it does not become a full course of action unless one gives rise to the wish to take possession of that property. Hmm? You can have the liking, but then when you intend to make it yours, that is where the Kammapata becomes fulfilled. Hmm? Ill will. Now, now, these are the subtle ways that in our samsaric journey we accumulate persons, let us say, who always have an eye for things that we have, uh, things that become really things that annoy us in our life, isn't it? The encumbrances. So those nuances of karmic formations that brings peace into our life, that doesn't bring peace to our life. That brings suffering into our life. Now these conditions are mental. Hmm? Because they are mental, these will affect the volitions that other people have towards you. Hmm? Hmm? Okay? They will
What
affect.
you, sorry,
Okay,
what
Anilante.
what you mean by that? Uh, for example, දැන් ඔය ලංකාවේ ගොඩාරියක් මිනිස්සු ඉන්නවා නේද?
Kirante, English, please.
Sorry, there are so many people in Sri Lanka who steal other people's properties abroad. And in a situation like that, how would you explain this phenomena?
Well, in a situation like that, karma patha is fulfilled. I will just point it out to you here. Right?
So even though, uh, in fact, they are not transferred or anything, they can just take it and they have covered that abhinya.
Yeah. So that would be as a result of or the mental hindrance of that avijja, covetousness, which is performed through that lobha. However, it is not just a liking. You can very well see something and like it and think that it is beautiful. And you may also think, oh, how lovely it might be to live here or there, or to have this particular thing. But it's another thought when you think, oh, I must have this. I must take this.
Yes, by taking only that, they will fulfill that abhinya quality.
Not abhinya, abhijja.
Abhijja.
Abhinya is a good thing. Abhijja is not.
Abhijja. Is it?
Abhijja, right? Covetous.
Bhante, it's not like you have to take it. It's just a wish of
The
wanting it.
wish. The
Mm.
Oh,
wish.
it's the wish.
The
Yeah,
wish.
just a
So,
wish.
so when the Kamapata, when now think about it in the other way, which is also very interesting. Now, from this side, it's the wish. From the side of the object, it is the complete manure and taking over of the object through an akusala mind.
Hmm.
Uh,
So that becomes stealing then, isn't it? Then it's another.
that becomes, well, you might now remember we are on the mano section, the mind.
Yeah. I mean, it is one, but if it goes beyond that and steal it, it
Then it's
becomes
a kaya dwara.
kaya. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
already from this section,
Yeah.
the covetousness can come.
Yes,
Now,
yes.
meaning, now let us say, now we know that Kaya Dwara is up there. We just did it here, right? That is bodily action, right?
Yes,
Now,
yes.
in this section, we are going over Mano Dwara. meaning thoughts that arise, and within the mind itself, it reaches the Kamapata, isn't it? Here, this Kamapata here, even though greed arises for others, it does not become a full course of action unless one gives rise to the wish, Chanda, to take possession of that property. Now, whilst this Kamapata, now you might wish to take possession of the property, right? Now, you might wish to take possession of the property. And when you do, right? And when you actually do, you might wish for it, but you might not have the guts for it, no?
So which one is more
So exactly,
dangerous?
that is where I was trying to come to. So
Yeah.
then, what is more dangerous, you think? I would assume it to be the one that is supported with the body, but that also does not mean that also does not mean that that is the final one, because let us say the Ramana, uh, the covetousness being fulfilled here is a condition on its own, and it has fulfilled karmapata, the full course of action, which can be powerful. Now, this covetousness here, the mental inclination that the mind and the time and all of that is given to planning, right? Planning might be intense. The physical action, in the case of the physical action, it might be a moment. Still, because there is a physical action, that memory or that moment is far more, the gravity of it is far more because it is grosser. There's a physical attribute to it. But it also does not mean that we can completely put aside this one, which is the covetousness,
Mhm.
right? Which is the covetousness. Now, maybe this is not a one-time stealing thing. Maybe this is going to be a recurrent thing, right? Here, the covetousness, because it is so, the covetousness might give the result.
Mm.
Then because let's say you've stolen so much. You've stolen so much. Right? You've stolen so much you can't remember the things that you've stolen. Right? Let's say some instance like that. Because you're that much of a narcissist, right? You're that much of a klepto. Because of this moment, the avidya here can take all of those moments with gravity and produce result. Produce result. We cannot for sure say, because in committing crime, sometimes with a criminally insane as well, you realize that the planning is far more insidious sometimes, and the thinking and the reliving of it than the actual deed. Hmm? Than the actual deed.
So
So
the Chetanahaṁ bhikkhave kammang vadami fits in here
it fits
perfectly.
in everywhere. It will fit in everywhere.
Mm.
The chet-
Everywhere there would be an intention.
yeah, here, just the pure intention only.
Mm.
Just the intention.
Here,
Without.
here, this is pure intention because it is talking about the particular moment that the Kamma is developed. Kamma is developed in terms, when you just said that, Shiroma, I remembered even when a Bhavanga rises or when you're in a state of Bhavanga and the mind pouncing on an object when it is in, that is also a habitual Kamma.
Mm.
The habitual nature, just as the Buddha says, um, the states of akusala is like home to us, it's far more warm to us. Uh, that habitual action of pouncing at an object the moment that it very well arises is a habitual tendency. It's a way of mind, it's a condition on its own. You realize when you meditate, you fall asleep far more less things disturb you. Even if someone is walking around you or whatnot, you fall into very, very, very deep sleep. Mm. Arahats were impossible to wake up.
Mm.
Why is
Did
that,
you, did you know that?
Mansi?
Did you know that?
No, no.
Arahats were impossible to wake up.
Because that's
Because they would go to sleep at the time that they wish to, and they would rise up at the time that they wish to, right? They would get up automatically if there was any danger, right? However, um, only some, but they would be absolutely impossible to wake up. Why? Because they go into such a deep sleep.
Maybe because of their deep meditations,
Because
they
they're
reach these high frequencies. So the mind, when freed, kind of goes into those frequencies that they are
actually at that
habitually
moment,
going.
if you take what is the deepest sleeping wave?
That
Theta or
Not
theta. Is it theta?
theta, isn't
I
it?
think theta.
No.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
theta.
theta.
Yeah.
Now, when you go beyond, when you go into those subtle frequencies, අර මං කතා කරන්නේ අර the mind's habitual nature to pounce on
Mm,
object. When you meditate, that reduces, meaning the mind are a the subconscious need that you had is lesser. Hence, even when you're asleep, now earlier maybe someone just knocking at the door may wake you up. But now, meaning when you are able to, you go into such a deep sleep that nothing wakes you up. Now, some might see this as a very bad thing, right? Some might see this as a very bad thing. But but when you completely let go and you see that even in the Bhavanga doesn't pound at the object. The Bhavanga maintains the Bhavanga because it's it doesn't want to know about an object. That's not the inclination of the mind. That is not the programming of the Arahat. Mhm. That is not the programming. Whilst when the mind is unsettled, the slightest object, the creaking of the floor, wakes you up. Hmm? The bhavanga is pouncing out as objects, pouncing out as object. Hmm?
mm,
Now, the third one, the second one, vyapada, which becomes a full course of action when it arises with a wish that another being meets with harm and affliction. Oh no. Uh-huh. That's that's a very easy one, isn't it? That's a very easy one, I feel like. Because it's a wish, no?
mm,
It's a wish. Uh, it's a wish. It's not essentially wanting to do it, but
mm,
it is the wish that that person meets with harm.
Mhm.
Wrong view, michcha ditthi, becomes a full course of action when it assumes the form of one of the morally nihilistic views which deny the validity of ethics and the retributive consequences of action. Three such views are mentioned often in the Sutra Pitaka. In the Sutra Pitaka, nihilism, Nastikaditti, which denies the survival of the personality in any form after death, thus negating the moral significance of deeds. Hmm? Two, the inefficacy of action view, Akiriyaditti, which claims that deeds have no efficacy in producing results and thus invalidates moral distinctions. Hmm?
Mm.
It's karmapala vipaka,
ඒ
probably.
කියන්නේ අකිරිය
Mm.
අකිරිය කියන්නේ මේ efficacy of action මේ කරන කෙනෙක් නෑ කියන එකනේ.
Ah,
අකිරිය. which claims that deeds have no efficacy in producing results and thus invalidates moral distinctions. Then the a causality view, ahetuka ditti, which states that there is no cause or condition for the defilement and purifications of beings. Um, that beings are defiled and purified by chance, fate, or necessity. Ahetuka ditti. Huh?
Very dangerous, isn't
Ahetuka ditti. Which
it? All three.
huh? May yes. May now the three causes of antisocial crime as well, I guess. Now, are these three clear, anyone? Would you want me to explain nihilism, um, akiriya, and ahetukadishti? Would you want me to explain? Now, michaditi, this is spoken of with regards to michaditi, wrong view. Now, this wrong view is not pertaining to one singular thing. It is the attitude that one has, the outlook that one has, the views that one governs one's life by. Hmm? Those views, when it comes to one that is as dangerous or michaditti, now there can be persons who are there can be persons who may not particularly believe in a certain thing but are not completely closed down to it, and then persons who are closed down supported by a certain view. This is relating to persons who are closed down supported by a certain view, the latter, not the earlier ones, which are who do not have a specific view but they're open to whatever. Isn't it? This is talking about those people who have cornered themselves or solidified a certain view for themselves. And there are three types of views which can be quite damaging in terms of our spiritual growth in samsara. The first one is Nashtika Ditti. Nashtika Ditti is the particular view in mind of a person where this person believes that after death, upon death, right? May nothing happens, and as a result of it, denies the moral significance of deeds that we do right now. Right? Deeds that we do right now. You know, may the second one, deed, is that clear? Uh, Deeds that we do right now. The second one, efficacy of action view, that is akkiriyaditti, meaning that anything akkiriyavada, akkiriyaditti, this is the fact that in any of the actions that we do, there is no efficacy. Hence, no need of moral distinctions. No need of moral distinctions. That's the second view. The third, ahetuditti. Ahetuditti is a causality view, which is to say that there is no cause to this. Again, what is happening now has no cause before it. It is simply happening by fate, chance, or necessity. Fate, chance, or necessity. So, what kind of people were they? I mean, at the time of the Buddha, for example, they did not may particularly take any gravity in maneuvering themselves in accordance to the reactions that they saw from the world. Simply, they just did their own thing, right? Whatever that they liked, right? Completely. Now, for example, may different sort of taking up of different vruta, hmm, taking on of different practices. So, because why? There is no man, there is no woman. I can be a dog if I want to. I can be a cow if I want to. In the same way, there were people at the time who were cows, who were dogs, who were who were pretend. That was their vruta. Right. So, for example, humans are impure. How beautiful is it a bird? So this man starts chirping around the forest, living his life and eating seeds. He thought that that way of life was going to cleanse him from the impurities of man because he was a beautiful bird.
Bhante,
Huh?
so these three ditties will give a full karma pada.
It can.
It can.
It can.
So I was
When,
thinking this
uh,
last one,
yes.
I mean, when you said about those examples, I said like I thought like right now today,
Okay.
very few Buddhists who have gone into the depth of Buddha's teachings will know about the Hetupala Dharma.
Mm.
So about 90% of people in the world don't know about Hetu Pala. So they will be in the Ahetuka Ditti. So
Sorry.
are they like every moment of their day, are they making karma pala patha
Yeah.
on that Michaditti?
Yeah. Well, I think, Shiroma, now when it comes to, let us say, why is your sister mad at you? Right? Not you. Generally. Why is your sister mad at you? Oh, she's mad at me because I did this to her.
Hmm.
Okay.
That kind of causality goes in everybody's mind.
Now, Balan, now this is a view. This is a causality view. This
Hmm.
is again, it is like මේ ලෝකවාදයක් වගේ. It is like a worldview, right? The worldview of this person is such where he completely believes that there is no cause or condition. හේතුඵලයක් නැහැ. There
Hmm.
is no, completely believes. That is why I mentioned earlier, this is not regarding those people who are not closed off.
Okay.
Right? Now, for example, kids these days, they might say, well, I'm atheist, right? Just for the fashion of it, or, because it's not cool to be religious, whatever, right? But then you talk to these kids, right? They're completely, their views or how their mind works is in accordance with a certain Dhamma,
Hmm.
right? You do good, you get good, you do bad, you get bad. That's a science that all these kids know,
Hmm.
right? Far better than us sometimes.
Mm.
Huh? Now, now, here, when these views arise, they are unable to sort of go any further than that. Now, there are a lot of pernicious, torturous views in this world that causes great amount of suffering. Mm, great amount of suffering. However, that this suffering is far greater than that suffering. Hence, that is why this is given special attention. Now, for example, a father may have a view, my child should not marry outside of our faith or community or whatnot. Very strong view. Mhm. Now, the can be very strong. However, that does not fall here. It can be a strong view, and this kind of thing may have also caused you a lot of pain and grief and all of that. However, that is only in this life. These sorts of views affects your samsaric journey. That is why those other views are not looked at. This looks at the general attitude and perception of view that arises in your mind in cognizing object. Huh? In cognizing object. Nasti dikti, akhiri dikti, and ahetuka dikti, which contributes to micha diktika. Now, such kind of person goes and buddies with another nastika dikti, akhiri dikti, ahetuka dikti, finish.
Mm.
Right?
Yeah.
Which means then when now the crowd is වටේ කතා කර කර ඉන්නවා. Now what happens? Now the proliferation. Now when we, for example, when we say Mame Bala Samagamo, Satan Samagamo, Hotu Yavani Bhanapatya. Of course, we are talking about Mithya Drushtikas. We are talking about Mithya Drushtikas, particularly those with those strong views that takes us away from the practice. That takes us away from the practice. That is where now this person getting that association is very detrimental to this person. Because now there's a condition to near the Mithya Drushtika going on and happening there. Happening there. Now, by way of roots and consciousness, of them killing, harsh speech, and ill will spring from the root of hatred, sexual misconduct, and covetousness and wrong view. From the root of greed, the remaining four arise. From the root of greed. Sorry, let me read it again. Of them, killing, harsh speech, and ill will spring from the root of hatred. Sexual misconduct, covetousness, and wrong view from greed. The remaining four arise from the two roots according to the class of consciousness. This wholesome Kamma is altogether 12-fold. Is altogether 12-fold. Killing, harsh speech, and ill will from the root of hatred. Sexual misconduct, covetousness, and wrong view from greed. The remaining four arise from the two roots, according to the 12 classes of consciousness. This unwholesome Kamma is altogether 12-fold. Is altogether 12-fold. Now, strictly speaking, ill will is a mode of the root hatred, and covetousness is a mode of the root greed. Wrong view is a mode of chetasika, wrong view. These three courses of action thus identifiable with the corresponding chaitasika. We will do this next week, everyone. We'll continue this section next week. Okay. All right. For now, we will stop there with the Abhidhamma. In your revision, if you do have any questions, do bring them forward. And for now, ඔක්කොමලාට තෙරුවන් සරණයි. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Everyone, sir.